Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please.
Hello and welcome to CS Report Episode 2. This is going to be an AFC West preview. I'm Al King, he's Tom Downey. And after a pretty successful first episode, I'm happy to be back for the second episode of the CS Report. How about you, Tom?
I'm happy to be back as well.
How would you rate our success for the CS Report Episode 1 if you had to be an outsider looking in?
I'll give it a B because I wasn't ready for anything else. So we'll just call it a B. Say room for improvement.
Okay, I like that. Not bad. I would probably give it maybe a B plus ish. We've gotten some positive feedback from certain people and some not so positive feedback from people like my girlfriend. But,
Wrong target audience, man.
All right, so I guess unless you have something you want to talk about to open the show, we can just jump right into it.
Let's just get started.
All right, cool. So top news. I know this one's a little frustrating for you since you are a Dallas Cowboys fan, but Dez Bryant involved in a training camp fight. The cornerback involved was Tyler Patman. What's your take on this?
Don't even care. I have zero concerns about it. Doesn't really matter to me. Not going to be a big deal. It's just, when you put 70 guys in a field, eventually they're going to kind of start getting angry at each other. So.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm kind of on the same page with you. It's training camp fights. I remember part of the Jets Hard Knocks. There was a lot of fights in that one. And it was just kind of like accepted really in the training camp culture, I guess, if you will. And apparently Dez Bryant and Patman have already come to terms and have moved on from it. They both said they're family, they're brothers, it'll happen, and then you just get past it.
I mean, we're so desperate for news at this point in the season. We'll take any little thing we can get.
Right, right. And then next, going into an AFC West player, kind of like we did with Tom Brady in your genius way of running that first episode. Jamal Charles calls himself the LeBron James of football. LeBron James, LeBron James, LeBron James.
Utter absurdity. That doesn't make any sense to me. If there is a LeBron James of football, it's so clearly J.J. Watt. So, sorry, Jamal.
At first I didn't even think of that, and now that you said it, it makes so much sense. J.J. Watt is clearly the best player in the NFL. Jamal's pretty good, but I don't think he's... people are saying that him saying he's LeBron James of football is him saying that he's one of the best to ever do it. And because LeBron is obviously one of the best to ever do it in the NBA.
I think what he meant was that he can do a lot of different stuff for his team, but then I just go J.J. Watt still wins. So
yeah, I think without a doubt J.J. Watt's still the best player in the NFL on both sides of the ball. He makes a great tight end as well as a defensive end.
He does.
So Jamal Charles, LeBron James of football, you hate it. I don't hate it, but I'm not in agreement. So
Chat Sports is personalized news and scores shared with friends. Thousands of sources from ESPN to local blogs create Chat Sports' curated newsfeed. Fans choose favorite teams and follow friends to get every breaking update. With live scores, play-by-play, and original content, Chat Sports is the best way to share sports with friends.
All right, let's move into the bulk of the show then. The AFC West preview. Last episode we did the AFC East. This episode we're going to do the AFC West. And we're going to start out with the silver and black, the Raiders. Safest pick, sleeper bust, just like the last time, and then we'll talk about the rest of the players that we want to. So we'll start with the Raiders. Tom, safest pick?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Amari Cooper. mostly because it's not like the Raiders have a whole lot of dynamic fantasy players. And Cooper, I think, is already Oakland's best receiver, even though he hasn't played a down in the NFL. So, and if he clicks with Carr early, he could be playing like a wide receiver too before the midway point.
I'm in agreement. I have Amari Cooper as my safest pick as well, for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, and I do think him and Carr click. I think Cooper is immensely talented, and wouldn't really have trouble clicking with any quarterback in the league, unless that quarterback was, one of the Bills. But I think Cooper and Carr are going to fit well together. I think having Crabtree opposite him will help as well, because Crabtree still will obey some attention or demand some attention from the opposing defense, which will get Cooper even more one-on-one coverage, which I think Cooper is able to beat.
Watched a video today of his footwork in training camp. It looked really good. So I think Cooper's going to have a nice season.
Yeah, he's a stud. Sleeper?
This one's for you. I'll just take Crabtree. Because at least we know his ceiling is at least a little bit higher than the other guys on the team right now. But it's not like there are any obvious options.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing. Sleeper is Michael Crabtree. We've agreed too much already, Tom.
You love Crabtree, so.
Oh, I loved him last year, and he disappointed me to the point where I don't like him anymore. But I think, new scenery. He's obviously one of the two most talented wide receivers on the team, since there is nothing else after that. So I don't see why he wouldn't be a good sleeper pick, and I think that's why we both picked him. And he's getting drafted pretty late, if at all. So,
yeah.
Who's your bust?
It's kind of by default, but Latavius Murray. Even though I have him in the top 20 among halfbacks for me, the reason that he's my bust pick is that he's high risk, high reward. He flashed some really good potential last year. But the reason everybody wants him is because of that Kansas City game where he had 4 carries for 112 yards, 2 TDs, and then got hurt. And then he didn't play that well from that point on. He didn't score again the entire season. So we're kind of basing all of his fantasy stock off of those 4 carries. So there's some concern on my end. I think he'll be fine. I'm going to draft him as a flex type, and hopefully he plays well. I mean, I think he might legitimately have low RB1 potential, but he also might get hurt or just kind of get 20 carries, 80 yards every game. So I'm just a little bit, concerned about him.
Yeah, again, we agree. So we're 3 for 3 in agreement so far. I have Latavius Murray as my bust as well. I actually have him ranked outside of my top 20. He's my number 24 running back as of now. The news on Trent Richardson not being healthy and maybe not even making the roster does help him. But it's the Raiders. It's their running game, which has been just anemic the last few seasons. Mm-hmm. And like you're saying, he had the one big game and the rest he was meh. And I don't like drafting a guy who is meh. That's why I think he's a bust for me.
Also, Trent is terrible, so I wouldn't take him
Right.
in any league.
Right.
His ceiling at this point in his career is touchdown vulture player. That's about it.
It's so sad. He got such a big contract, and they used 2 first-round picks to get him. And, I mean, God, talk about the most overhyped, overrated player in recent memory, for me at least, Trent Richardson.
Yeah.
Anyone else on the Raiders that you would like to talk about? I mean, there's still a few out there, I think.
Derek Carr, I want to mention because I actually like him quite a bit as an NFL quarterback, but he's not ready to be a fantasy starter yet. No real reason to draft him quite yet.
Question. With Derek Carr, with him having the two weapons that we mentioned already, is he an option in two quarterback leagues if you decide to wait on your second quarterback?
Let me see where I have him in my QB rankings. I think I have him 25 or so.
Okay.
I do have him actually exactly 25. So I still have him as more of a backup in a 2 QBR league.
Right.
For this year at least. I'd take him before I took Winston or Marcus Mariota. But I just don't fully trust him yet. I think he might be the answer in Oakland, but he's not going to be the answer to anyone's fantasy team.
Okay, fair enough. I'm in agreement there. I think he's worth taking as like a third quarterback, like you were saying, and maybe he does perform like a QB2 in a 2 quarterback league, which is just bonus points for you if you're able to draft him as your third quarterback. But it is hard to trust right away. It is the Raiders, and he is only in his second year, but we will see how that pans out. But I think he is a much better real-life player than fantasy at this point in his career. Yeah. We're on the ball with agreeing today, Tom, and I don't think that's good for the show.
I don't think it is either. I'm sure it'll change soon enough. So.
Right.
I got another name for you, Roy Halou. How about that name?
Oh, Halou. How are you? Sorry.
Wow, that was I was doing all my research for this, and I realized that he was 38th among fantasy tailbacks.
Last year?
Yeah, 38th. And I went, what?
Really?
He was 30th. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And I think it was because he caught a decent amount of passes, which kind of intrigues me in a PPR format.
Right.
But, I mean, I obviously don't trust him because there's no way I'm going to draft him in any league.
He's listed
at the end of a.
Go ahead.
At the end of a PPR league.
Yeah. So he's listed as the starting third down running back for the Raiders right now. You mentioned his catching ability. He had 42 for 477 last year and 2 touchdowns receiving. And he averaged 5.4 yards a carry. He only had 40 carries, though, but for 216 yards and a touchdown. So, I don't know. Maybe if Latavius Murray is a bust, then Halou might see the field a little bit more than people think. But again, like we were saying with Murray, he's probably going to get every opportunity he can before the Raiders decide to pull the plug. All right, besides Halou, anyone else you want to talk about, Tom?
Not off the top of my head. How about you?
Of course I have one. Sebastian Janikowski, the left-footed, drunken kicker. Love him.
I actually haven't taken him in a long time because he hasn't been playing that well.
Right.
Fantasy-wise, even though he's a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I always used to pick him maybe 5 years ago, so I'd always make sure I got him. But as of right now, he's not really worth taking, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will still draft him because it is who he is. But like you mentioned, he's kind of been in a decline. And how much are the Raiders actually going to score? Will they even get into field goal range? Those types of questions. And I just love his name and just love the player that he is, but he won't be on my fantasy team. So moving on to the San Diego Superchargers.
Sure. Great name.
Safest pick, sleeper and bust. Tom, go ahead with the safest pick.
Give me Phillip Rivers only because I think we all know he's going to finish around 12th. That's what he did last year. That's where he tends to finish. Or 12th among fantasy QBs, I should say. It's not like he's going to explode and finish 5th or something, I don't think. But he shouldn't finish, 25th either. And he's normally pretty healthy, so he's kind of a safe low-end pick, a low QB1 in a 12-team league, and a high-quality backup in a 10-team league.
Okay, I like that a lot. He is a very safe pick, Phillip Rivers, for the reasons you mentioned. My safest pick actually is probably going to surprise a lot of people because it might be the opposite of safe. But I think Keenan Allen is poised to have a bounce back season. He already is a target monster. He just had trouble doing things with those targets last year. I think with Gates missing the first 4 games, Stevie Johnson will tire towards the end of the season. I think Keenan Allen's going to be the top dog in San Diego. I think he'll go over 1,100 yards receiving. I think he'll have maybe just under 10 touchdowns. And I'm very confident in drafting him where he's going.
Where was this last year? Because I pushed so hard for you to come along the Keenan Allen bandwagon with me. And then it went up in flames, just like the Crabtree bandwagon did. Because those were the 2 guys we were arguing over, trying to get each other to pick.
Yep.
And now you're on the Allen bandwagon. And I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay.
I
don't know.
like
I'm a believer in the sophomore slump a little bit for certain guys. And
that's what happened.
And I think Keenan Allen was a candidate for that for me last year. And then then a lot of times the sophomore slump happens and they realize, wow, I can't do this offseason what I did last offseason. Yeah. I really have to commit myself and dedicate myself to this game or else I'm going to be a disappointment. And that's when the big third-year receiver thing happens. And I think Keenan Allen is exactly that this year.
I'm kind of drafting him as a flex and expecting him to play kind of like a wide receiver too. So
that's great. That is, I mean, could you imagine getting a wide receiver 2 return out of a flex pick?
Oh yeah.
That's called winning the draft, Tom.
It is, and that's always fun.
Right. And who is your sleeper pick for the San Diego Superchargers?
Ladarius Green.
Okay.
The tight end, he'll start over Antonio Gates, at least for the first 4 games since Gates is suspended. I kind of thought Green was going to take the job from Gates last year, and then Gates totally took me by surprise by how well he played. But now that Green's getting a chance to start for 4 games guaranteed, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't really give back that starting job to Gates. And Green's not really getting drafted. I mean, I've done plenty of mock drafts where he doesn't go at all, so you don't even have to take him right away. I can wait till the very last round or just keep him, ready to go in the waiver wire. So.
Yeah, I think I like that pick of Ladarius Green. That's not who I picked, but you said all the right things there talking about him, and he definitely has sleeper potential. He actually has breakout potential.
He does. If
he's able to stay on the field after Gates comes back. He's an athletic freak, and he's got a lot of speed as a tight end. He's a mismatch waiting to happen. He's kind of, I don't want to say too highly, but Jimmy Graham-esque, I will say, for Ladarius Green.
That's the style of play, yeah.
Right. Who is your? Oh, I got to do my sleeper.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to do
wow.
yours.
Sorry. Mine is one Daniel Woodhead.
Okay. Why?
He finished 2 seasons ago. He finished as the number 13 PPR running back. And that was the season that Ryan Matthews had a lot of carries and was healthy, I think, pretty much the whole season. So Woodhead was purely the third down back, and he comes back and he steps right back into that role. And I think he flourishes in it as well, because I don't think Melvin Gordon is going to be on the field for many third downs because they have Danny Woodhead, who's a better pass protector at this point and a better pass catcher as well. So I think Woodhead has all the sleeper potential, and he's getting drafted really late. And if you're in a PPR league, this guy's still that late in the draft.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree with you PPR-wise. As long as he stays healthy, he's an absolute stud. So.
He's so little, too. That's always fun owning
tiny.
Really little guys.
He is.
Who is your bust?
Probably to be expected after my sleeper pick, but Antonio Gates. I refuse to touch him in any league. I also did this last year, and he made me look really, really stupid, but that's beside the point. He's 35. He's missing the first 4 games of the season. I just don't see any reason to invest anything in him. So,
yeah, my bust is. Go ahead.
His average draft position is really messed up because the CPU keeps picking him up for some reason, at least on ESPN. But I just refuse to take him.
Yeah, my bust is Antonio Gates as well. He is missing the first 4 games. He's 35. Everything that you said. Ladarius Green has the potential to take that job just away from Antonio Gates. Although I do think the Chargers love Antonio Gates. Phillip Rivers loves Antonio Gates. I think maybe out of respect, they give him a lot of playing time when he does return. But I think even then they find a way to have Green on the field at the same time if Green performs well in the first 4 games.
I'd really like to see them run more 2 tight end sets. Because it's not like they're super deep at receiver that they need to be going 4 or even 3 wide all the time.
So we have Gates as a bust, right? So you and I, say we're in a league together. It's a 10-team league, and Gates doesn't get drafted. Is he then a waiver wire priority come week 5?
Depends on how Green plays, I think. If Green isn't, or at least does not play very good, then maybe we go look at Gates. But I'm kind of more willing to take a wait-and-see approach.
Okay. I think even if Green plays really well, I think because, like I was saying, the respect that they have for Gates and how much they admire him, I think he would. If I didn't have Ladarius Green and say I took a chance on someone like Tyler Eifert or something and he wasn't performing, I wouldn't necessarily just drop my tight end for Antonio Gates. Mm-hmm. But I think picking him up and stashing him isn't the worst idea if your tight end is struggling early in the season.
And assuming you have the space on your roster.
Right. Which come week 5, sometimes you don't. It's still pretty early in the season. You're not necessarily ready to give up on certain guys that you drafted because you drafted them for a reason. You thought highly of them.
Still holding out hope.
Right. So, I mean, I guess it all depends on who's on your roster and things of that nature. But I don't know. I think Gates might be worth a stash come week 5.
Maybe. What are you expecting this year from Melvin Gordon?
That's funny that neither of us put him for safest pick, sleeper, or bust.
He's kind of in that middle ground for me where he doesn't really fit any of the categories.
Right. So I almost put him as my safest pick because I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's highly impressive, and he's going to get a lot of work in his first season. But can you really safest pick a rookie running back?
That's why I didn't put him in there because it's tough to trust first-year guys.
Right.
For me. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I really like the way Melvin Gordon played in college. I'm a huge fan of Gordon, and I think that he will be a good player his first year in the NFL because he's going to get a lot of usage. But it's tough to trust a rookie running back, and he's getting drafted, I think, towards the end of the 3rd round, beginning of the 4th round. And that's pretty early for a rookie running back, even one that was taken with the 15th overall pick.
Yeah, I have him as a low-end RB2 right now, knowing he might play a little bit better than that, but I just can't justify taking or spending a high pick on a halfback that's in his first year.
Yeah, it's always tough with rookie running backs because you never know how they're going to pan out. The outlier last year was Jeremy Hill, but he didn't even get to really start until halfway through the season.
And it's not like he was a high pick either.
Right,
for the most part. He was pretty late in the draft.
Right. So that's what makes Gordon a not
fantasy
safe.
draft, I mean.
Right. That's what makes Gordon not safe, is how early he's going. That's not going to say that I won't take him in the 3rd or 4th round. It depends on what other running backs are there and who I have on my team. If he's the best option there, if I'm looking at Melvin Gordon, Carlos Hyde, Lamar Miller, I'd probably go Melvin Gordon.
Really? Because I take Hyde and Miller over Gordon.
Really? Interesting.
Real fast. I've got Miller pretty high up on my board, if I recall correctly from our conversation last week, because I have him 13th among halfbacks.
Wow. That is pretty high.
Well, he was 10th last year, so...
Yeah, I have Gordon 15.
Top 10.
And Lamar Miller 18. I actually have Gordon.
I have Gordon 18. So, and I have Ingram 15, which I'm not super sold about right now. But
I actually have Melvin Gordon in front of Frank Gore. I think I'm going to change that, but we can discuss that on another episode.
okay.
Anyone else you want to talk about on the Superchargers?
You kind of mentioned him briefly, Stevie Johnson. What are you expecting from him?
Good first 4 weeks, maybe, while Gates is out.
Really?
Maybe even good first half of the season. But I think he's going to do kind of similar to what Steve Smith Sr. did last year. And maybe not as good as Steve Smith Sr. because that start to last season was ridiculous. He was playing like a 25-year-old. But I think Stevie Johnson has a good maybe first half of the season and then fades towards the end.
Okay. I mean, Eddie Royal is gone from the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stevie Johnson's going to pick up on some of those targets, but I don't see him being anything more than a backup. But I think he could be a solid backup in PPR leagues. So.
How about Malcolm Floyd?
I don't trust him.
Okay. I mean, great that he's back though.
Yeah, but he's always hurt. It seems like.
Yeah, he is.
I just don't see any, and it's not like he's got super high upside. So.
Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he is what he is at this point in his career. I think everyone knows what he is. Anyone else you want to talk about on the Chargers?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, let me get.
It's Nick Novak, I think.
Yep, let me get Nick Novak in there. What are your thoughts on Novak?
Just outside top 12 for me.
Okay.
So it's not like the difference between like 7 and 20 among kickers is not very high. So. Yeah.
All right. I think I'm gonna just default all the kicker rankings. I know we talked about it last time, but I'm just gonna default every kicker to you, and you're gonna be the kicker expert. Are you okay with this?
Okay. Well, whatever you say.
Like what you're hearing? Check out more fantasy football content and much, much more content at chatsports.com. Again, that's chatsports, chatsports.com. All right, so Kansas City Chiefs is going to be the next team that we go to playing in Arrowhead Stadium. Safest pick, sleeper, bust, Kansas City Chiefs. Safest pick for you, Tom.
Charles, by far, really no explanation needed on that one.
All right, Jamal Charles, LeBron James. So that's my explanation for Charles. We both know why he's the safest pick. He's heavily used in that offense. He is the offense, more or less. He's the machine that runs it. If he gets hurt, Niall Davis steps up, but we'll get to him in a second, I'm sure. Who's your sleeper?
I don't think I have one really. I was thinking Niall Davis, but you really can't because he's nothing more than a handcuff / a must sign if Charles gets hurt. And the rest of the guys are all kind of, well known. This is where they should go. So.
Yeah, I'm the same. I have in my notes.
Chiefs are really thin for fantasy players as well.
They are. I have NA for sleeper for the Chiefs. A lot of people that I've read, at least from other blogs and things like that, are valuing Alex Smith a little bit higher than he usually is because of the addition of Jeremy Maclin. But, I mean, the guy doesn't throw to wide receivers. He doesn't throw more than 6 yards down the field. He's a check down machine. He's just not a fantasy quarterback, in my opinion.
He's like a backup. So.
Yeah. So we both don't have a sleeper, which is pretty bad. But like you said, everyone, where they're getting drafted is where they should get drafted. And what you can expect for them is what you should expect. So that's hard to have a sleeper.
Yeah, I agree.
Who is your bust?
I don't have a bust because everyone's kind of getting drafted where they should get drafted, I feel like.
Okay.
I know Maclin you can make the argument for, but I think everyone expects him to not play as well as he did in Philly. So.
Yeah, my bust is Hedemy Maclin. But not a lot of people are expecting a lot from him unless you're a huge Jeremy Maclin fan and you're just being way too optimistic. I think everyone knows he won't repeat what he did in Philadelphia. I think he's out of my top 40 for wide receivers, I want to say.
Really?
I'm looking right now. I might be jumping the gun there. So I'm looking. Where's he for you?
He's at 28 for me. So.
No, he's not out of my top 40. There's no way.
Wow. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he was outside your top 40.
Yeah, no, he's actually inside my top 30. So there I go,
Okay.
running my mouth.
That makes more sense to me.
He's my number 28 wide receiver. I have him right before Amari Cooper and right after Andre Johnson.
Okay, well that makes sense then.
So top 40. See, running my mouth, just getting in trouble. All right. Anyone else on the Kansas City Chiefs that you want to talk about?
I mean, I'm sure. I know you wanted to talk about your boy Kelsey, so fire away.
Oh, man, Travis Kelce. I've very, very much thought about ranking him as my number 2 tight end ahead of Jimmy Graham.
All right.
You're thinking I'm going crazy, huh?
I'm gonna quantify this by putting it in. How high is he on your overall board?
Oh man, my overall board, he's probably around number 45 to 50.
God, that's so high for a tight end.
Range.
That's not Rob Gronkowski.
So Gronkowski is.
I would never spend a pick that high on Kelsey. He is. Let me find him. He's like low 70s for me.
He's baby Gronk. He wears the same number.
All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and pump the brakes for you a little bit on the hype train that you're about to kick out of the station. He was 9th last year among fantasy tight ends, so that's a pretty substantial jump.
But Mr. Downey, Anthony Fasano is no longer in town, who for some reason the Chiefs were playing over Kelsey majority of the season, and then they finally increased Kelsey's snaps, and this year I don't think they take the training wheels off, and I think he's going to be absolutely unleashed, and I hope I'm right.
All right, whatever you say. I just think you're getting a little bit in front of that hype train. You're going to get just run over by it.
Too much so.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's I don't know. I haven't put him over Graham yet, and I probably won't. But they're very close for me. They're like 2 and 2A, honestly.
Wow. See, I still Greg Olsen above Kelsey because Olsen's very consistent and has proven that he can be a top 3 fantasy tight end in the past. But one last question for you on the Chiefs is How high do you draft Jamal Charles? Assuming that your standard 10-team league.
I think he goes in my top 6 picks.
Okay. I have him top 3.
Yeah, I mean, if it's standard...
He'd be top 4 knowing Le'Veon Bell, is probably right up there too.
Right. So for me, it'd probably go, Peterson, Lacey, probably then Charles at 3. Yeah, and then Bell 4. I like Lynch at 5. So, but what about in PPR? Where does he go? Is he even higher than for you?
I think he jumps Lacey in PPR.
Okay.
I don't think he jumps Peterson because I think Peterson's actually going to catch a decent amount of passes this season.
I'm so high on Adrian Peterson. It's unbelievable.
I mentioned how I didn't want you to get out in front of the hype train on Kelsey.
Yeah.
I have already lapped the station once and come back around for
Adrian Peterson.
Dude, I think he's just going to play super mad the entire year. So
he's going to be a monster.
I think so too. All right. Anyone else on KC then?
Wow, Cairo Santos.
Nope, not draftable in any league. So.
All right, you heard it here first from our kicker expert, Tom Downey. Do not draft Santos.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, eh? Don't do it.
Just not worth it.
Okay. Last, but definitely not least in this division, are the Denver Broncos. Again, safest pick, sleeper bust. Tom, who's your safest pick?
Demaryius Thomas. We all know he's going to catch a ton of passes, and maybe even more so than last year with Julius Thomas now in Jacksonville. He's totally worth a second-round pick, and that's about where he's going as well.
Yeah, I have Demaryius Thomas as my safest pick as well. He's easily going to be the man on the offense. I think they'll run a little bit more than they did last season, although there were times where they ran a lot because of Manning's injury struggles. But I think Thomas picks up some of the touchdowns that Julius Thomas left, along with some more receptions, and he's easily my safest pick as well.
Okay.
Sleeper.
I mean, I'm not going to take him in any league, and I'm sure he's not going in many, but that's Cody Latimer for me, mostly because everyone else is kind of going around where they should go, and he's got some intriguing upside. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year he kind of breaks out, and if you're going to spend a late round pick on a flyer, a guy like Latimer with a lot of upside makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have him as my sleeper pick as well, and I probably won't take him in any drafts either. If I do, it'll be the very last round, and he's just sitting there. But I think, in a high-powered offense like the Broncos run, and Peyton Manning still throwing him the ball, I think Latimer has a chance to have a fantasy-relevant season, which would make him a good sleeper pick. And I know that Emmanuel Sanders himself has come out and said, Latimer is going to see the field more this season than he did last year. So we'll see. We'll see what Latimer can do with that more opportunity.
I'd expect Sanders to shift into the slot more,
right?
Which is going to help his PPR value a lot. Might knock him down a little bit overall. I mean, he was 7th last year, so I think he plays more like a wide receiver too. But he's another guy that should be a safe pick.
Who is your bust?
Peyton. And I am so worried about him. I'm really afraid that his arm is just going to fall off or something along those lines. I still have him 4th among fantasy QBs, and I'm flip-flopping between him and Big Ben. But they're both really far down on my overall rankings, so it's not like I ever get Peyton Manning in any league, which makes me feel better. So... I mean, he's 39. That's so old.
39 isn't that old. My pops just turned 77 a couple days ago. No,
39 is really old for
the NFL.
For the NFL.
Okay, I get it. I didn't put a bust because I can't deny Peyton Manning. I tried to last year. I tried to the year before. And
I'm just scared.
Yeah, no, it's a good pick. I understand why you're scared. He's 39. His arm strength isn't as good as it used to be, even though it was never really great. But I just can't. I mean, I won't draft him because of his bust potential. But man, I've tried to call him a bust the last 2 years, and he just has shut me up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tom. Any other skill position players you want to talk about with the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, C.J. Anderson jumps out because he came out of nowhere last year. Almost finished inside the top 10 among fantasy halfbacks. I have him as a late first, early second round pick. I don't know where you have him.
I don't mind taking him there. He's ranked as my number 8 running back, so that makes sense to go into the first round if you trickle in a couple wide receivers. Maybe even someone takes a quarterback in round 1 in the leagues. You never know. But
happens.
I in my home league have the number 10 pick, and I know I mentioned that last episode. He hasn't made it to me in many mock drafts that I've done, and I'm not sure if he will in my league. But if he does, I'd have to seriously consider taking him there.
Yeah. It's about his range.
Although I am highly on the, because I'm in a full point PPR, and I've been highly on the 2 wide receiver turn at that first number 10 and 11, which I know you are going to completely disagree with.
Totally depends on who's on the board at that point.
Yeah.
Like if Des Bryant and like Demaryius Thomas are there, and Anderson, Foster, all of them are gone, I really can't argue with that too much. So.
Right. Let's see.
Is Monty Ball going to amount to anything anytime soon?
Man, I don't know. I mean that's as big a question mark as there is in the NFL. I think
he just can't stay healthy. That's his issue.
Yeah, it sucks, because he was really talented at Wisconsin, and I think he's still a good running back. But I mean, C.J. Anderson just took that job and ran away with it last year, and the Broncos would be crazy to try to, split carries or anything like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Hillman played well too.
Yeah, I mean they got a talented backfield. They do have a talented backfield.
Although I think Hillman becomes kind of more of a third down, change of pace back.
Right. Right now on their official depth chart, they have C.J. Anderson listed as the top running back, top goal line back, and top third down back. So it seems like they're planning on featuring him as much as they can. And like you mentioned before, the backup third down running back right now is Ronnie Hillman. Backup goal line back is Monty Ball. So maybe Ball has some touchdown potential and Hillman has some PPR potential. But as of right now, all 3 spots belong to C.J. Anderson. So,
thoughts on Owen Daniels?
I'm not drafting him.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I almost put him.
He's always hurt.
Yeah, I almost put him for my bust because some people are saying, "Oh, Kubiak with Daniels again, and he's gonna have his, another great year." Blah blah blah. I don't believe it. I
think I have him 13th overall, but how often do 13 tight ends get
drafted?
Taken?
Right. I would take guys like Eric Ebron over him, to be honest.
Wow, that's aggressive. I mean, yeah, that's a little bold, but oh well.
Anyone else for you?
No, I think that's everyone.
All right, I have to ask. There's 2 kickers on this team. Connor Barth and Brandon McManus. Who wins the job and are either draftable?
Barth is going to be, I think, the field goal man.
Okay.
McManus might just be the kickoff specialist because McManus has a strong leg, but he's not that accurate. Barth, I think ESPN has him 4th, which is too high for my taste. But if you were picking like 8th or 9th man and all the kickers are gone, you can take a guy like Barth.
What I mean, just what a kicker expert! You know who's going to be kicking the kickoffs, who's kicking the field goals. Tom Downey, you were bringing it today.
I guess kickers are people too.
According to one young Rich Eisen, they are top people in the NFL. All right, so I think that's going to wrap us up. Unless you have something else you want to talk about.
I do not.
Okay, cool. Thanks for listening to the CS Report Episode 2. We are on iTunes now, so you can go ahead and subscribe to us. Just go to iTunes, search c.s.report, and it should pop up for you. Go ahead and
pop up.
There you go, the follow and the subscribe. Also, email any questions or thoughts to our email address, chatsportsreport@gmail.com. Again, that's chatsportsreport@gmail.com. The last one that we were going to try to make was actually taken.
Yeah, I set out. I would bet a lot of money that CS Report was available.
Yeah, how much money are we talking, Tom?
I don't know. I didn't put any money on it because I would have lost substantially. I'm surprised that was not available.
I meant to actually lead with that. Then I meant to ask you how much money are the listeners going to get, because you bet a substantial amount of money.
I did bet that. This is where my gambling problem gets me into issues. So
that's too funny. All right, well, thanks for listening. CS Report Episode 2. Again, follow and subscribe on iTunes. You can also check us out on SoundCloud.com. Again, just search CS Report, c.s.report. For Tom Downey, I'm Al King. Follow us on Twitter. He's at WhatGoingDowney. I am at AlKing906. Have a great weekend and happy drafting. Like what you're hearing? Check out more fantasy football content and